Welcome to the Trent Advantage live stream series. We are very excited to welcome to the first session of the series. Tonight's focus will be on our Bachelor of Education program. My name is Caitlin Meehan, and I am the Education and Missions Officer here at Trent. I will be the moderator of tonight's session, and with me from the School of Education, I have Adrian Ash, Program Manager. I have Carla Wagner, B.Ed Coordinator, and Rich McPherson, Knowledge Mobilization Education Coordinator. I will be starting off tonight's session by asking our panel of experts some common questions about the B.Ed program, and then we will have some time to answer any additional questions you have at the end of our session. So I invite you to please add your questions into the Q&A button. The button should just be at the bottom of the screen. So add any questions you have there as they come up, and we'll get to them at the end. And with that, we will get started. So Carla, the first question we have is for you. Can you please give us a brief overview of the Bachelor of Education program?
Certainly. Our program is a 2-year program, and we run September through the end of April each year. We offer kindergarten through grade 6, which is called primary junior, and then grade 7 to 12, which is intermediate senior. And just in case you're wondering, our average class size is about 30 students.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Our next question is for Adrian. Adrian, what are some of the unique qualities about the education program at Trent?
There are a whole bunch of ways that I could answer that. I think maybe just the easiest is just to start off by saying some of the areas of focus that we have, which include putting an emphasis on Indigenous education and ways of knowing, putting an emphasis on social justice and how that relates to education. Those are two critical themes of the program. They really permeate through all of your classes and all your experiences that you're going to have within the program. But I would also just mention that we really pride ourselves on the connections, the direct connections that you're going to feel within the program. Our class sizes are quite small, but then in addition to that, just it's I know it sounds like a cliche to say you're not a number in our program, you are an individual, but talk to our students. I mean, that really is the feeling in our program that people know who you are, they are aware of you, what you're bringing as an individual, and that plays out a lot of different ways throughout the program. But just feeling like you're valued as an individual, I think really, as much as it is a cliche, I think it's a valid cliche for us, and it really does apply.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Alrighty. Rich, this is a multi-layered question.
Ooh.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Hands-on and career-related experience is so important in any program. Can you tell us about the experiential learning and placement opportunities within the B.Ed program? Do students get real in-classroom experience? And if so, how do students participate in these experiences?
Yes, I will. Before I even answer that question, I will say I'm seeing a lot of the questions popping up, which are great. And if we don't get to them right away, please hold tight. We will answer those questions either as a whole group, or I'll answer them individually. But by nature, the B.Ed program is experiential. It's extremely hands-on. Half your time is spent in class, which in itself is highly collaborative and hands-on in terms of your learning. It's highly active. We use you can see in our photos, we have these beautiful photos of campus, and we use these spaces a lot when it's nice out, but also when it's nice and cold out as well. It's beautiful to be outside when we can, and use those spaces and learn on the land. So highly active, highly collaborative. But the biggest piece, and where a lot of the theory that you're learning in the classroom goes right into the elementary or intermediate senior classrooms, and that you spend a lot of time teaching and learning how to teach. And you have, as Carla said, in the 2-year program, you have 4 different blocks. So in each of those blocks, your first block, you're about 4 weeks in a classroom, and you're doing a lot more sort of watching and learning and starting to plan and starting to teach a little bit. And as each block goes on, you are increasing the amount of time that you'll be practice teaching. So by the end of it, you have had plenty of time to get to know the classrooms that you're in, uh, get to know what a school environment feels like, looks like, how to navigate those pieces. Every school that you will be practice teaching in will be slightly different, of course, but you spend a lot of time in those classrooms honing those skills. So by the time you are done with our program and you're heading out, you are very well equipped from being able to learn again all of those theory pieces, which are highly collaborative and active, and then taking that into the classroom and really, you know, trying those pieces out and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. So you have that space to sort of come back into the classroom and figure out how you might approach it in your next block as you go. So again, I can't speak enough to how really experiential the whole program is by nature, and that's why a B.Ed degree is different from many other degrees. And another part of our program is our alternative settings placement program, which is a mandatory piece that happens, which is about 3 weeks or 75 hours that we look at you taking those skills from you know, your coursework with us, and then your practicum time in the classroom, and using that in an experience that is preferably outside of the classroom. So we have a lot. If you go on our website and you go to, I can pop it in the chat, but trentu.ca/education, and you look at alternative settings placements, and there are tons of different types of placements that are within the community, that are run by our faculty, that are run by partners around the Peterborough community and beyond. And again, those are experiences that we promote and encourage students to do. It's part of the program, so you do have to do it, but it's such a fun part of the program because you get to exercise your brain in a completely different way that is outside of the classroom, for everything that you've learned, and that usually happens between year 1 and year 2. So there's a ton of experience there, where you get to gain that in the classroom. And on top of that, I'm going to go even back. In your first year, we have a literacy support program. So actually within the first 3 weeks of our program, you will be visiting schools and working with a small group of learners, specifically with reading skills. And so even before you get to go on that first block of 4 weeks of teaching, you get to kind of just ease your way in by working with small groups of students. And that is also tied to a course that you will be taking. So again, you ease yourself into it and you get tons of time in the classroom as you go. So that was all over the place, but needless to say that you get so much experience and practice.
Thank you, Rich. Alrighty, Adrian, you're up next. Can I apply to both primary junior and intermediate senior, or do I need to choose just one of these?
For the moment that you come into the program, you do need to pick just one of those 2 areas. And it should be mentioned that we at Trent we have just the primary junior and the intermediate senior. We don't have a junior intermediate option. There are a few universities that have that, but just doesn't tend to be highly sought after blending. So we have the full range, but it's just in those 2 combinations, primary junior and intermediate senior. At the intermediate senior level, you would need 2 teaching subjects that you're applying to. Beyond that, though, to add more qualifications, if you will, after you've completed your Bachelor of Education program later on, then you can add more, add either another teaching division or more teaching subjects if you're at the intermediate senior level. So, and that's quite easy to do once you've completed your Bachelor of Education later. So there are lots of options to do that, but just when you come through the program, while you're going through, you would need to be one or the other.
Absolutely. And you can technically apply for both. You're more than welcome to submit 2 applications if you're interested, if you're on the fence, but like Adrian said, you would have to pick one. And in terms of applying to both, we would assess you for your first choice. So when you do apply, you're going to have to prioritize your choices on your TEAS application, and we will assess you for your first choice first. As a result, how you rank these 2 choices on the application is very important. There are some cases, though, where you would get your second choice over your first choice. For example, if you applied to both intermediate senior as your first choice and primary junior was your second, but unfortunately you didn't have the requirements for your teaching subjects, like Adrian mentioned, then you would potentially get your second choice over your first. So you can apply for both, but you're only getting one offer, is the gist of that.
Thank you for adding that, Caitlin. I will mention that one of the reasons, even my mind, I default to thinking, avoiding, even because you have to be primary junior or intermediate senior once you are in the program. Yes, you can apply to both, but I will say, be cautious about the idea of applying to both. Please only apply to both if you are genuinely committed to either one, because there have been times that people have come into the program, they have applied to both, they ended up getting accepted to one but not to the other, and it turns out the one they're accepted to is not really the one they're want to be in, and then they say, oh, but that's not really what I want. Please make sure if you apply to it, you're fully committed to whatever area. And that's why, like I said, I tend to be cautious on that, applying to both only if you're fully committed, but not because you just want to be safe to get in. That would not be a good rationale for applying to both of them simultaneously.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. All righty, Carla, it's back to you. Carla, what are the career prospects for teachers right now?
So as a few comments have asked, because there's a high need in Ontario, will we be shifting to a 1-year program? At the moment, that's beyond our control. We're in a pause and a wait and see. As far as we know, we're going ahead with our 2-year right now. But because Ontario, as well as other provinces, but certainly we have a high need for qualified teachers. So if wanting to become a classroom teacher is what your end goal is, chances are you're going to have some form of work when you graduate. So it could be in the form of daily supply work where, you're the substitute teacher. And another one is called long-term occasionals. And those are jobs that are posted for more than 2 weeks, and you could secure one of those. And for some of you, there's a possibility of securing a full-time probationary teaching positions, particularly if you are certified in French. So there's been quite a swing in the last while. We had a period of time where graduates had to wait, where they were just doing supply teaching, where they were doing supply teaching and long-term occasional, and they wanted that full-time, but it was taking years. It's a very different job market right now.
That sounds super promising. Thank you, Carla. Okay, Rich, can you tell us why study with the School of Education here at Trent?
Why study with us? Well, I'm a little bit biased. I've been here for over 20 years, so I do kind of like the place. But as someone who was a graduate of this program over 15 years ago, I want to say that because I was a student in my undergraduate, that I didn't participate much on campus activities. I lived off of campus with some friends, and so I didn't really dive into that whole campus experience. Not that that's expected of you when you come into a B.Ed program, but when I did decide to do my B.Ed at Trent, one of the greatest aspects that kind of hit me right away was just how close I became with, my sort of my homeroom of students, and in my cohort, I was a PJ person, and so you take a lot of courses with those same folks, especially in that division, and it was an eye-opening experience for me, and it, just being able to work with like-minded people who are equally passionate about getting into the profession, and that community aspect, this small community aspect, was was so great. And for me, what that did, and what I tell a lot of students, and I see in my own students now teaching in the program, is seeing how well supported everybody is. Because of that sense of community, right out of the gates, you feel very well supported, taken care of. When you have, you are seen, you are heard. You get to know your instructors very quickly. They get to know you very quickly. And get to know how you learn and how you best learn, and what best ways that, the things that you need to be successful for yourself. And so, that community aspect, I think, is one of the greatest aspects of our program. And that's not just because of the small sizes. I think it's, the amount of events that we host, between our coursework, going out on placement. We have professional events weeks, and we have our teacher unions and different workshops that happen, that they give you all the answers to those things, what you're wondering about. What the heck do I do when I'm done and I get out there and I need to teach? You have all those things answered for you before you go out. So and I think with our smaller classes, we have a smaller staff, and a smaller faculty, and so you really get to know everybody along the way. Everybody can share their experiences throughout the program with you. So that would be one of my, biggest pieces, obviously. But I think the opportunities with the literacy support program are huge. The alternative settings placement that I mentioned earlier. Although those are mandatory parts of our program, those are additional experiences that can carve out a completely different way in education. So again, to use myself as an example, I went into my B.Ed believing that I was going to be a teacher right out of the gate. I ended up teaching in the primary classroom, but I didn't stay in it for too long, because from my alternative settings placement, one of my professors actually hired me to be on their research team. And that opened my eyes up into the world of education research. And so I really gravitated towards that. And then I found myself working with multimedia out of that position, and which was a huge passion of mine. So I was able to take everything that I learned through my B.Ed and just happened to take an alternative settings placement that really charted the pathway for the rest of my career. And I taught in the classroom, but I found myself back at the university, using all those skills from that alternative settings placement, and back to where I am right now, and in teaching, and in our faculty now. So it's much different, but it's again, having those opportunities, and that's a testament to getting to know your instructors. And so for anybody who's coming from a larger university and looking for that community appeal and aspect, you'll definitely get it here at Trent, and certainly a wonderfully inclusive environment for everybody. And so definitely welcome you all into our space.
Thank you, Rich. Alrighty, so now I'm going to quickly just speak to the admission requirements for the program. Program sounds great. You all want to apply if you haven't already. So for admissions, applications are open already. They will remain open until December 2nd. Applications have to be submitted through TEAS, which is the Teacher Education Application Service, which is a portal through UAC. So yeah, these need to be in by December 2nd, which is only 2 weeks away. For admission into the program, we are looking for the completion of an undergraduate degree, or that you are on track to have your undergraduate degree completed by the end of this school year. We are looking for a minimum 70% across your most recent 10 full credits completed at the time of application. This is equivalent to 10 full credits is equivalent to 20 semester-long courses, or essentially the last 2 years of study at the undergraduate level. This will make up the academic portion of your admission score, which makes up half of the admission score. The other half of the admission score is made up of based on your experience. To demonstrate your experience, you will submit a document called the Profile of Experience. The Profile of Experience is a form that will become available only after you've submitted the initial TEAS application. It will become available through our online student platform, Trent. The profile will consist of 2 parts. The point form experience listing, where you'll have the opportunity to list 5 education teaching related life, volunteer, or work experiences. This section is kind of similar to a resume blurb, where you explain your role, where the experience was, for how long, and a point form explanation of what you did. And the second part of the profile is the critical reflection. So in this section, you'll choose 3 experiences from the above 5 and explain why these experiences are meaningful to you as a future teacher. I won't touch too much on this because we're going to talk about this in our next question. But basically, to summarize up the admission requirements, we're looking for academics. We're looking for that minimum 70% across the last 10 credits and your experience. I would also like to note that this is how we assess our applicants. It's very important that you're looking through the TEAS application if you're looking to apply to other programs, because we all do it a little differently. So it's really important that you're making sure you're hitting the right marks for each application. And I will also like to say that meeting these minimum requirements is not a guarantee for admission. Our program is very, very competitive, so it's very important that you're aware of all application elements and that you're putting a great deal of effort into all components of the application. Alrighty, and Adrian, the next question is for you. So as I said, experience is weighted as 50% of the admission assessment. What would you say makes an applicant's profile stand out?
Okay, I'm going to maybe start off and answer that, but then I'm going to invite either Rich or Carla if they want to pipe up afterwards too, because we all might have slightly different angles to this, and this is an incredibly important question, obviously. So, because I hope everyone was listening closely to what Caitlin was just saying about how we look and how we consider the profiles at Trent. It really is a critical part. It's not just sort of a rubber stamp kind of make work project on having you write out your experiences. We really care about what you're putting down. And what matters there, I would say most significantly in my mind, is how the candidate talks about the experiences you've had in light of how they've influenced you as a developing teacher. So it's not about just putting down a checklist. There actually are 2 parts to it. One part is the checklist part, if you will, to give us the list of all those experiences you've had. But in the section that I would say really counts in my mind, much more, which is where you go into 3 of those experiences in a much more in-depth manner, and we're looking there to see, is this a person who's just telling us all the things that they have done in that experience, or are they able to really reflect on how those experiences have influenced you as a developing educator? Do we have a sense that you recognize that this is a lifelong learning process, and that any of us as educators that no matter how long we've been in the field, we should always be striving to be improving, getting better next year from what I was last year, and that same kind of humility and approach and readiness to continue learning from your experiences, that should be evident. It's not to say that you wouldn't also speak with confidence in your profile, but we're really hoping to see a readiness to say, but here are the aspects that I feel like I can continue growing and bettering myself as an educator. Those are the pieces that really ring true for me as I read them. Carla, what do you think on that one?
I was thinking of the students applying that maybe don't have three things where it's working with children, and they're afraid that that's a drawback. So I just want to highlight that if you can make connections and transferable skills, and I know that we had a teacher candidate before that one of their jobs was managing a Tim Hortons, and the managing skills, they were able to talk about that as one of their three positions and how those skills transferred. A golf pro, so it's not just the stereotypical camp experience, that if you've had other experiences, but it's what Adrian's saying, it's your passion and connecting, and what is it that you're bringing. But it doesn't always all have to be work with children. If you're looking for those three things, it's other skills that are really important as well.
Yeah. Rich, what do you think? Have we missed things that you would add there?
I don't think no, I don't. There's nothing else. I mean, I like to talk, so I can just throw some stuff on top of it and then, pile on. But no, thinking about, myself, we're all readers, we all read applications. And so everybody comes, we have multiple people who read these applications so that we really get a nice we have a holistic approach to these applications. And everybody comes with a different lens, and so I think it's, we certainly don't want people to get hung up on the fact that, oh, I gotta go do this placement because this one is what they're looking for, and this one, no, because Adrian and Carla said it. It's how you're able to articulate how those experiences have had an impact on you. And so when I'm reading an application, for me personally, it's nice to see that you understand some of the educational aspects of, an inclusive classroom and differentiated learning, and knowing that you're working with a different population of students. I'm not one that gets hung up on all the buzzwords and filling in your application, because that's not meaningful to me. Those will come in the program as you go, and you'll get to know those things. Because I say all the time, sometimes I read applications from someone who it's their second career. They're a background in chemical engineering. They do not have tons of experience working with children, but they're able to articulate a life story, and how that has transformed their way of thinking about learners and education, and how they're going to make a mark in the classroom and change things, into a positive direction. So it's, again, it's really making that short piece leap off the page, that it's meaningful and it's not surface level, and it's just giving you what you think we might be looking for or hitting on, because you're not going to hit on everything, because like I said, we have multiple people who read these, right? So speak from the heart and a place of passion, and why this means something to you.
Thank you for that. Thanks for humoring us, Caitlin, on that one. I just thought that was a good one for us to have the perspective right across the board there. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Alrighty, so we're coming to the end of our panelist questions. I have just put some links in our webinar chat to some useful websites, and I've also included my own contact information. So if you have any questions, please check out these links. If you would like, you can get in touch with me. I can speak to your educational background. I can talk with you about teaching subjects, answer any questions about the program or the application and admission process. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email is educationadmissions@trentu.ca. And any questions you have, send them my way. So that's it for our panel questions, but we do have some questions in our Q&A. So if we'll just take a second to turn to some of these questions that we haven't gotten to yet.
So I'm going to answer one right here from Maya. In terms of the 85% automatic acceptance. So that is not a rumor. That is something that is part of, if you are in the teacher education stream, which is our undergraduate program, and you do hold an 85% average with your last 10 full credits at the time of application, you are automatically accepted into our B.Ed program. You still have to apply to the B.Ed program. But that is part of being within the teacher education stream. Now, I will say that is a very tough average to hit. Not a lot of students do come in through that avenue, but not a rumor. It is very much true. Thinking about some other pieces around, I don't know if we touched on greatly about our placements. Maybe I was answering questions if we missed that, but we have a number of partnered school boards. So for those of you wondering if, hey, I live west end of Toronto, can I get a placement over here? And the quick answer would be no, unfortunately not. Our school boards are the Peterborough, the Kawartha region, which is quite large, both public and Catholic. The Durham region, public and Catholic. And we have Trillium Lakelands, which is north, so you're getting up into Lindsay and Halliburton, that kind of area. And then you have some in Hastings and Prince Edward County. We have a few schools there as well. So that whole catchment is actually quite large. And again, when it comes to placements, we can never guarantee where your placement is going to be. We certainly know when you fill out all your forms, we know where you're coming from and where your residence is going to be during that year. And so our placement officer does the best that they can do to place you in a school that we certainly ask you what area would you recommend having that placement, and we do a really good job at trying to make that happen so that you can be closer to home if that is something that you need to happen. We also do have a lot of students. Again, you get to know everybody pretty quickly in our programs, and so you'll also know who is going to what schools. And so we do have a list that you can sign up to. We do not coordinate rides for people. That is completely on teacher candidates. But if you want to sign up for something, we provide a list to everybody who signed up of what schools people are going to, in case you did need to carpool with somebody. And that is usually, again, taken care of, and it hasn't been a major issue throughout our program. You'll find your route to the school that you'll be placed in. But like I said, we can't guarantee it. But I know that there are lots of folks who come from the Durham area that are coming up to Peterborough and would like for that block to be in a Durham school, so that they can be home for those 4 weeks. And we try and make that happen. But again, like I said, we only have those partnerships. There's no sort of one-off, yeah, you can go into a school in Peel or TDSB. We just we don't have those partnerships. But it's also the fact that you have a faculty advisor who's going to be visiting you, and they have 30 other students in their group that they have to visit regularly while they're on placement. So we certainly have to keep it contained within our area.
Thanks, Rich. Carla, do you have a question? Yeah.
Yes. A couple people have asked how many weeks for each semester are in person and how many weeks in placement. So I wanted to address that for everyone. So we have 9-week semesters. They're compressed. It's a lot of work, 9 weeks. After that, we have 1 week of professional events, which is like professional development that is meant to support you when you're on placement. And then 4 weeks of placement, followed by the December break. We come back in January for another 9-week semester. And that again is that takes us right now in this year, it's taking us right to March break that the school boards are doing. So March break is off. Come back for another week of professional events, and then it's a 5-week block in the spring. And that repeats itself for year 2. So 4 weeks and 5 weeks, both year 1 and 2.
Thank you. Alrighty. So questions are blowing up. I will answer this one question asking how credits are weighted. So for 10 credits, that is equivalent to 10 full year courses. At Trent, we weigh our credits by 0.5 and 1 full. So 0.5 would be a single semester, 1 full would be a full year course across two semesters. Some schools weigh them where a 3 is equivalent to our 0.5 and a 6 is equivalent to our 1. Essentially, 0.5 is a single semester, 1 is a full year course. We have a few more questions. Is anyone able to speak to how much a full-time teacher would get paid?
Carla, do you want to field that one?
I don't have the numbers right in front of me. So it does depend. It is school board specific, and it is based on your qualifications. So was mentioned earlier that it is possible to do additional qualifications afterwards, and that can make a difference. But when you graduate, you apply to a body that looks at all of your work and all of your marks, and they decide what level you get paid at. So and then it's normal tax. So when you apply to this body, it's called QUECO, QECO. And what they do when they tell you what level you're at, they also give you pathways of how to move up to the next category. So I hope that answered that person's question.
Thank you, Carla.
I was also going to just mention, and I don't think you talked about this, was that for anybody who is coming in and thinking about applying with a 3-year degree, which is possible, you will come out with a B.Ed, with a, after you're done being certified and going through the program, you will come out substantially lower than most educators coming out of the program. 99% of the people who are in a B.Ed program are typically have 4-year degrees. But that's not to say that, there are people that are okay with that. But it is a huge piece to know that when you do come out on those steps that Carla mentioned, it's a significant change. Whether, I don't know if it's a $10,000 to $15,000 difference in your pay. So just that, be mindful of that for anybody who is thinking about applying with a 3-year degree.
And I'll just piggyback on that. They should tell us all when we start our undergrad that our marks in our undergrad count. And that's what they look at as part of what step we land on, what category we land on. Your grades when you're with us don't have that weight. And we do run a pass-fail program, a success-based assessment. We don't actually do marks or grades.
Thank you. Can anyone speak to if there are any special requirements for applying to the Catholic school boards?
I can probably address that there quick. So yeah, the most of our Catholic partners are, they're sort of partway in between in the transition, if you will, from a day and age where you needed for sure a letter from a priest, and you needed to have a certain, be able to get that letter from a priest, be able to have people speak to your Catholicity, if you will. I would say most of the Catholic boards around are, for human rights reasons, are moving away from that kind of structure. I'm not saying there isn't any of that out there still, but there tends to be a lot more accessibility. And I say that the guiding kind of theme, if you will, that I am hearing from our Catholic partners is more about being respectful of the Catholic environment, and having, if you're going to be going, I would say that should be the case for any school environment. Each school has its own, culture and needs and emphases, and whatever school you're going to be going into to teach, you should be ready to have a respectful approach that you're going to bring to that environment. That question about whether you might still need a letter from a priest, I think there you would probably want to look directly, go to the website of a given Catholic board that you might want to work for, and actually go into the human resources section and see what they're saying themselves directly, because that would really give you maybe some guidance on whether they are sticking to some of that older approach, or whether they've moved into that more. I think in the long term, that's going to be where everybody's going to be, even maybe by the time you're out in the system yourselves. But anyway, yeah.
Alrighty, thank you.
Someone else has asked about the pay. I'm just going to see if I can find a pay scale and to be able to explain that a little bit more.
I see also a question about doing a placement in the same school more than once if I work with a different teacher. So one of the keys there is that we will arrange placements during the program. There are actually two different categories. Most of the placements we've been talking about are practicums that are very closely regulated by the Ontario government. And one part of that is that we have to be sure that we can stipulate that there isn't a conflict of interest, that you have a personal connection, if you will, to a given school. So we sometimes will place somebody more than once in a given school, but it's not something that the teacher candidate themselves can't actually make that request. If the school requests you to come back second time, then that's where we might have you return to that school on their request if it's been a good placement for all parties. But it's not something that, because of the conflict of interest rules, that's why you can't go out and arrange your own practicum, lobby for returning to a school, or lobby for a different location or whatever, because all of those, and it's really, there's a twofold part. One is the thing I'm talking about there in terms of the conflict of interest, but there's also the piece that because there's so many students in education programs around the province being placed all the time, school leadership, board leadership, principals, they have basically communicated to us to say, we don't want the volume of emails and communication and requests coming to us from so many different parties. So what they do to make that leaner and meaner, if you will, is to say, from education programs, we want one request coming to our school from one person at each of the universities, faculties of education out there. So we have our placement officer person who will make those requests, and teacher candidates can't sort of make their own individual requests of that type. So yeah, long answer to a short question, but it is important to give that context. So you might be sent back to a particular school, but it wouldn't be something that you could say, hey, I really like that placement, I want to go back. Unfortunately, we're not able to make it on that basis.
So a few more questions about pay. For anyone who did do a semester or year abroad, you will be required to submit those transcripts as well. You can reach out to the school you attended and have them emailed to educationadmissions@trentu.ca. And we'll just look to your regular undergrad transcript and your year abroad transcript.
I don't see, I'm looking at one question about the reflection component. It says, take 3 experiences, reflect on what you learned and what you have yet to learn, draw on one's skills from those experiences, and very nuanced piece. So I'm not sure, I don't know if others, so yeah, I'm not seeing what the question is within that. So maybe if you were the one who wrote that question, if you could follow up with another question there, just to clarify what you're meaning there, that might help. Okay. Carla, were you able to find that piece about the pay scale?
Yes, so I do have a sample salary grid that I'm looking at. Unfortunately, I can't share it with you at this time. There are, so they base every single application on its own right. So the very top of the category of the steps is called A4. And most people, when they graduate from our program, are one step down at a category A3. We do have some that are category 2, A2 as well. And as Rich had mentioned, if it's a 3-year degree and not an honors 4-year, that does make a big difference. So what I'm looking at is a sample salary grid, and entering the profession at an A3, it's showing over 54,600. And one level down is 50,500. So that would be, now it's saying this was 2019, but again, it was a sample. So it does depend also, this organization gives you what category level you're at, but then each school board has a slightly different scale. And it's a 10-year scale. So each year you do have an increment. And if you've taken additional qualifications, it can bump you up a category. And they tell you exactly what category you are, and then they give you pathways to the next category, to the next pay level. And we do have them come and talk to us, and it's all detailed. So I hope that helped. You only know what category you're in after you apply, and you apply when you're close to graduation. So yeah, it's waiting to know.
Alrighty, thank you so much for looking that up, Carla. I think we've come to the end of our questions.
And I see somebody asking about the marks and the GPA. So that is, your undergrad marks do carry weight. So if you were an A+ student, that's in whatever figuring they do, it does hold weight.
So I just want to add myself, by the way, sorry for, I realized I was making tapping noises on the keyboard as I had muted. My apologies to people for that. I did answer very quickly. Somebody had a question about what percentage of your salary might eventually be paying in taxes. And I just answered really briefly with saying it's more about tax rules. I don't mean to put you off in the question. It's just that, it really, what's your overall household income and what's the, it's going to have to do with that. So I mean, I think there it would be more, a matter of, looking at the Canada Revenue Agency's guidance on what percentage of your salary, depending on, where you land on the salary grid. If you are in a, position that you're starting off at a $75,000 salary or a $100,000 salary, what deductions do you have, all the rest, there are just a lot of factors there. So yeah, you might be in a 30% bracket. You might be up higher than that, you might be lower than that. So it's really hard to say, I would say.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've doubled back to our profile of experience question. This person is asking, just to clarify, so yes, you are going to write 3 experience in the critical reflection part. You are going to write about 3 experiences that have influenced you as a future teacher. You can speak to the successes, you can speak to the challenges you faced, and yeah, beef it up, mention some skills learned. Adrian, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just yeah, reinforcing what you're just saying there. I mean, I would say that for me, often the difference between a strong response and a weak one is that the weaker responses often just tend to be a listing of kind of, these are the things I've done, and they might be great experiences, but though, the stronger experiences give you some more profound insight into what you have taken aboard in terms of what you've learned from those experiences, and having the vulnerability, if you will, to be candid about strengths and weaknesses, strengths and challenges that you've felt in that, but just like I say, not not being that one-sided, oh, I'm going to be a great teacher person to be. We're glad you have that confidence, but that should be balanced with a full picture of what you recognize that the next steps that you have in growing. Yeah. Well put. Humility. Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and to that, and exactly to that point, if I'm reading an application and the applicant has teaching figured out, then I don't know why they're applying to the program. You have to, I've been teaching for over 15 years, and I come every day looking to change and learn for the better. I don't for one moment think that I know everything, because that's when the learning stops if I have that type of mentality. So, if that's something that you can be positive and know who you are as a person. But when I read those applications of like, I know that this is going to change this, and I know that this is, well, that's great. You got it figured out. But you come into a program like this, willing to learn, willing to change, willing to challenge some of your philosophies. If you're in Ontario education, we all came up through the same sort of system, and these programs ask you to rethink how you approach teaching and learning in this system, and so I think that's important. Carla.
And the other piece is, I think it's a real plus of our program. This is where you tell us who you are. Other schools just look at grades, and they have a cutoff, and they take their first whatever their number is, and done. We look at both. And when we're reading those applications, we don't see your grades. We are only seeing the piece that you're sharing, and you're letting us know who you are. So embrace that moment.
Absolutely. Alrighty, thank you, everyone. I think we've come to the end of our questions. Looks like we've come to the end of our presentation. I'd like to just give you guys all a big thank you for joining us. A big thank you for our panelists for coming and sharing all their knowledge about our program. This session has been recorded. It will be posted to our 2024-2025 Trent Livestream Advantage webpage. So if you want to double back to it, you're more than welcome to. If you want to check out any of our other live streams, you're also welcome to do that. As a big reminder, the application is open to our B.Ed program, and it will close on December 2nd. That is less than 2 weeks away now. So get those applications in. I invite you to come check out our campus. We offer tours 6 days a week, and you can sign up to them on www.trentu.ca/tours. Besides that, I think that's it. Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, send me
Thank
an
you.
email.
Thank you, Caitlin, for doing a fantastic job hosting too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and I will
you.
say to anybody out there who is on Instagram, follow us at TrentU SOE. You don't have to necessarily follow it if you want to just check out the page. And I'm just going to put that into, that didn't go to everybody. So at TrentU SOE. You can find us on Instagram, and that gives you a really good lens into our program. And we have students who take over our Instagram account, and you really get a sense of the day-to-day and community aspect that we've talked about tonight. So,
hope to see you folks next year.
Yeah, good luck.
Bye, everybody.
Hey,
Have
thanks.
a good night. Thank
Have a
you.
good night.